Alright, well, in celebration of Cletus McFarland's new Lenco and all the Transmission Lives Matter protests going on right now, I'm going to dismantle this Ford C6 transmission. I've never been inside an automatic before, other than maybe changing the filter and sticking a converter in one, but I want to check it out. I'm inspired by a few channels I watch, actually. Precision Transmission down in Texas. Love his disassembly videos, always full of fun facts. Mountain's Garage, he does a lot of TH400 stuff that's really inspirational. And of course Frank Merkel, who is a Ford C6 specialist up in Canada. So I think it's finally time to check one of these out. I just took it outside and, well, actually I found it outside. Just sitting out in the weather. It's a transmission that my brother actually had sitting around. This one has a cracked case. It's kind of hard to tell here, but the bell housing's busted and it's been repaired or something. Actually, it's down here. I'll kind of show you all that later, but so there's really no harm to go ahead and pull this thing apart. This is a four-wheel drive unit, and so it's got this kind of short and wide tail cone here, and this stubby shaft. But curiosity has got me, and I just want to kind of check out what's inside this thing. So I'm going to start pulling it apart. Welcome to the Kiefer's Hot Rod Shop YouTube channel. I'm Nick Kiefer. Alright, so here's the first thing. Went ahead and pulled the input shaft out. You can see how rusty it is. It's been sitting around for a while, so we'll put this up here. In terms of accessories, I've already pulled the dipstick and the passing gear vacuum hose line that clips into this clip here out. So otherwise, I think it's just time to start unbolting things. I believe I'm going to start with this tail cone here and just go ahead and pull it out, and then I'll work on the pan and all that. That's going to lighten this up tremendously. So I've noticed that it's traditional to disassemble automatic transmissions using impact guns. So I've got a couple here to do just that. I've got this old Craftsman 19.2 volt vintage piece of equipment here. As well as this 12 volt Milwaukee. Good stuff. I wish they still made batteries for these 19.2s, but I've got a couple around that are still good. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and try to zip this tail cone off. I already drained a bunch of fluid out of this thing, but as always with messing with automatic transmissions, I'm just waiting for it to gush several gallons of that horrible red liquid out at any time. Alright, excellent. Might need these, so I went ahead and grabbed a bunch of them. Cool. Well, I believe that this is a governor of some sort, and this is some of the park position hardware. Yeah, so yep, cool. That works in this transmission, which is kind of neat to see. Don't know much about this. Got it used, never used it. Well, got that weight off. I'm gonna go ahead and take some more stuff off here. This is a little column shift bracket, which originally mounted, I think, kind of like this. Just facilitates the linkage. I believe this is the second gear band adjustment here, and so that's something that I'll eventually need to take off. It's a bigger size than I thought. Okay, it looks like 13/16, so let me get another. Also, I forgot to mention, one objective of this video is to test out my new camera. So you guys are watching me through a new GoPro, as opposed to an iPod Touch, which I usually film with. Crazy stuff. Cool. Well, that's kind of nice looking. Second gear band adjustment, threaded piece and locking nut. Without further ado, I think it's time to pull. This is when it could really start pouring out the dipstick hole here. So put that there. Alright. Get some of this debris out of the way. Interesting. Got different length bolts here, so I'm going to have to find out why. The front ones all seem to be short. Hey, feel free to put tips in the comments. I'm actually thinking about getting into building some of these C6s, so I'd love to hear any tips. I've seen a lot of good stuff, but always curious. If y'all haven't checked out the Frank Merkel videos, they're good. He is apparently the man when it comes to these things. Up in Canada, got a lot of cool parts, valve bodies and such. Probably be getting some parts from him. At some point. Alright, that took a while. Cool. Let's see what's inside here. This thing sat out in the weather for years. Oh, the pan's on there really well. Let me grab a... Guess I'm not really worried about the gasket too much. Ooh, look at that. A lot of that's just like rainwater, I think, but certainly looks like there could be some friction material in there. It's kind of, that's nasty. All right. All right. Whoa. That's crazy. So as I wipe this, like, it seems as though all the black oxiding on all these parts are just wiping off. So Very interesting. Oh, our first horrible puddle of liquid has occurred here. Glad I have a rag there. Alright, well, these bolts are alarmingly small headed, so I'm going to look for, I believe the bigger ones are going to be what mounts the valve body. Let me grab a couple sockets. You know, these seem like perhaps they're metric. That's kind of disappointing, but let me see. Alright, I'm going to move you all over here to check this out. Let's see. Got some metric sockets to try out. Yeah. Not really, yeah, it doesn't seem to be of those sizes, so I'll try this. I think what I'll do is attempt to just remove the larger headed bolts. Sorry. Oh yeah, cool. Wow. And that gains me immediate access to everything. And this thing is just chock full of fluid. This valve body. Alright. Let's stick it in the pan. Alright. I believe I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. It's the vacuum actuator for the passing gear activation. I've also learned that there is indeed a pin in here which can be lost and should not be omitted from assembly. So that's cool. It's also emitting a considerable amount of fluid. Alright. Here's the second gear band componentry. It's a pretty neat set of, I'm trying to think of what these are called, if they're struts or something, I don't know. Heck, sorry, I don't know. I'm also glad to learn that those two pieces are very different from one another. So hopefully if I review the film I can remember which way they go back if I need to do so. Let's go ahead and pop this servo cover off. This will be cool. I do know that there are springs behind this, so perhaps what I want to do, I'm going to go find a bolt this size that's longer. Alright, excellent. So I'm just going to put this in to capture this cover here, just in case it's really holding something back. I believe that these, I know that there are various sizes of pistons, and I think different springs. Okay. And this tag probably has some really helpful information on it as well. It is completely caked with undercoating. Maybe I'll scrape that off and we'll check it out later. I endeavored to clean out most of this crap before I brought it in here, just so that I don't contaminate everything, but also so that I can gain access to all this stuff. Pretty nasty unit though, so. This thing's stuck on pretty well. Probably not doing it a great service by hammering this gasket scraper into it, but I believe if I were ever to build one of these, I'd probably use an aftermarket servo anyway. And again, no real big future plans for this unit. I might just scavenge parts from it. Got another one too with a good case, so you know, if I can combine internal stuff, maybe give it an extra set of clutches and frictions and bands or what, or frictions and steels or anything like that, that'd be kind of neat, I think. But that is down the road. All right. There it goes. All right. That seems to be manageable. Oh, and it's certainly chock full of fluid. Okay. We'll just let that pour out for a little bit of time here. Meanwhile, I'll carefully liberate this from the assembly. Okay. Well, that looks like it might be a larger size piston. This being a four-wheel drive unit, that could certainly be the case. It's equipped with, it appears to be equipped with this spring only. So that's interesting as well. I couldn't even tell you if this is virgin assembly or what. I'm trying to think of any clues that I might have witnessed up to this juncture. I think aside from being repaired over here, wow, it's a nice surface. Well, that's intriguing. I believe it's dumped out the majority of what it's going to. All right, let's check out the pump. Let me put these back in here before I lose them. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's zap this thing out. I'm tempted to put a little bit of penetrating oil on here. Oh, the internal straw in this can, I believe, has broken, so it needs to be used upside downly. Alrighty. Wow. Cool. This seal not only appears aftermarket, it's also been installed in a very unprofessional manner. It's misshapen. So I believe at the very least they tried to remedy some kind of symptom, more than likely, by replacing this. But honestly, those wear out and leak too, so it's probably just fixing a leak. All right, let's try to pop this pump out. Yeah. I don't know if there's a special pattern for this, but not hardly worried about it. All right. These all appear to be the same. So, well, that one. So, I think I will set them aside and figure out what those go to later. I believe that the pump needs to be knocked out from inside. I'd prefer not to completely ruin anything, so I've got this brass drift, hoping that... Is it moving? This might be completely wrong. Alright, so I believe the way to remove this pump is to pry it. I just watched a little part of one of Richard's videos, precision transmission, and it appears to work. Cool. Cool, it's coming. Alright, yeah, check that out. There it is. Alright. There's some gasket material. Interesting. So I realize now that I was prying against this poor bearing here. Wow. This seems to be a plastic material, which is mildly interesting. Maybe it just keeps things from chattering. I don't know. I'll tear that apart here in a sec. Okay, so here's the next, look at this nasty stuff, my gosh, grody. Alright, so here's the next thing in there, and you can see there are frictions and steels down in there. I'm going to attempt to look at those. The screwdriver might not be the optimal tool for removing this clip here. Let's see. Okay, cool. I've got it where I can get it out. Awesome. Man, those guys that do this make this look really easy, getting this clip out of here. So let's see what we've got. Cool. So here's a big old thick ring. Here's a friction, which looks to be in excellent condition, as a matter of fact. I don't really know. Here's a steel, but it's rusted. You know, it's discolored, grooved a little bit, but it feels smooth, so I don't think it's too bad here. Another friction with a lot of material and cross hatching on it, seemingly. And all this stuff seems about the same. It's got that rust on it. That sucks. There's a little bit of wear in this bearing here. I guess I can attempt to pull. Actually, I think there's something in here I know requires a preload to. Wow, look at that. Man, this drum is pretty trashed. That rust. The wear, there's a little discoloration. I think this is rust, but the wear doesn't seem too bad, but it's just so rusty. Hate to see that. This band, looking at the ends, it's really not even chipped up. I don't know, it doesn't look terrible for my untrained eye. There's a bunch of this horrible matter in here. Grody. Alright. This has water in it. Now, it's fresh water. I just washed this thing, and I wasn't horribly cautious about keeping water out of it. This appears to be a bearing. I believe this is a selectable piece. Now that FM is kind of neat. I guess it's Ford Motors or something. Maybe not, but it seems to have a considerable amount of wear on it, but not excessive. Not sure though, but I believe you can select the thickness of this to shim the assembly. It indexes into these 4 registers on this piece. I think I'm going to go into more fine detail of disassembly later, so right now I just want to pull this thing apart. This seems to have some ferrous O-rings in this area here, and here's a roller bearing, so that's neat. I think, well, I have to assume this transmission's stock, but I guess these have roller bearings in some positions. Here's an interesting plastic bearing. Let's check this thing out. I'm gonna look like such a lame-o pulling this apart. I'm kind of trying not to scratch anything up excessively if I can avoid it. Cool. Now, I'd also like to avoid stabbing the screwdriver directly into my thumb. That would not make my day. Ah, here we go. Awesome. good. Yes. Cool. All right. I'm excited about this part here. I've seen, yeah, cool. So I believe, let's see, so this appears to be extremely similar to that. But I believe you can rearrange these, parts here. Maybe it's this, not sure, but you can use some of these rings to add an additional one to the first gear, I think. Lots of friction material on these. They're certainly not worn to nothing from what I've seen thus far. Wow, that appears to be dry. There is rust on the steels, which, yeah, so maybe that's kind of what happened in there. It got washed away. So my understanding would be that it probably would not be awesome if this were just, wow, this is cool. Oh, this is wavy. So this must be like a, what's referred to as like a wave spacer or something. Wow, this fits really nicely in here. Okay, cool, and this is conical. Okay. Oh, alright, great. This is held in by another clip. This might actually be under pressure. Yeah, I think so. I believe this is the part that's under pressure, so I might not be dismantling this at this point. Here's another Torrington roller thrust bearing here. That's interesting. Pretty cool. Wow, there's a bunch of neat stuff in here. There's like a little steel circle clip in there and all sorts of stuff. That's pretty neat. It'd be hard for me to judge the condition of this piece, but it is rusty once again, so I hate to see that. I'm not sure, yeah, okay. Oh wow, okay, so this is a Planet gear here. Again, with this, which indexes on one side, probably so that it doesn't rub against one side. Wow, a planetary assembly. 3 pinion, obviously. It's got play in the axial direction, but laterally it seems pretty good. Quality of the gears, they seem to have some wear on them, but I think what you're looking out for is pitting. What an interesting assembly, you know. That's pretty cool. There's a bearing down in there. Neat. Wow. Cool, and this big old bell sounding drum here. It's pretty neat. Again, rusty though. I hate to see that. I guess, I don't know if that just completely ruins the pieces. If any of y'all know about this stuff, just put it down in the comments. I'm probably boring the heck out of you, but Now this is interesting. There's a stamp here. Oh, cool. There's that. Kind of running out of space here. And then next, I don't know how much more stuff comes out just willingly. I know there are a lot of things which can be rollerized in these, and there's all sorts of various bearings which are used for that. A lot of work on the lathe, for what I understand. Okay, cool. So I think I've met a point where I'm going to need to extract C-clips from the, yes. Okay. Let me dump this fluid out and stand this thing up and we'll check it out. Alright, so I've dumped a lot of fluid out of here and gained access to some of this stuff. And I'm going to attempt to extract, yes, there's a clip in here which is hard to get to. I think the orientation of this clip is actually important. Maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of inside of like a 400 or something. Alright, cool. It's kind of... Cool. So we've got another 3-pinion planetary system here. You can see on this kind of the wear on the teeth. They're well polished. I'm not seeing any kind of pitting or anything, but you know, it looks like it's got plenty of use on it. But another 3, and then working on pulling this next. Here's another thrust bearing with the FM on it. Seems to have plenty of wear. What I'm trying to figure out right now is what exactly is holding this planet gear in here. Let's pop this guy out. Oh yeah, obviously that's held in there. Alright, cool. So yeah. There's that. And I believe I was just watching a video with Richard at Precision Transmissions, and I believe that I'm getting actually into the low gear stuff, which is kind of interesting that that's in the back there. Here's another thrust washer here, and that's barely got any copper material on it, so it seems to be pretty severely worn. This is the one-way sprag in here. It just only goes one way. It's kind of an interesting device that's inside of these transmissions, inside of pretty much all transmissions. It's got rollers and stuff in there, pretty cool. And let's see what else is left in here. Alright, the low clutch, I believe this is. Let's check this out. Alright, cool. So these frictions mostly seem pretty intact. I don't know how to tell whether they're worn a lot or not a lot, but in total there are, looks like 5 frictions, and then there's this big blocker ring or whatever it's called, and this thin one up top, and then these index into the case itself. Getting full over here, lots of parts. And trying to think. Yeah, cool. So I think I've got all that stuff. Now just need to grab stuff out of the back. Alright, cool. Got y'all kind of repositioned there. Tail shaft. And apparently these channels are for this governor here. These fluid channels. So that's pretty neat. I was just brushing up on this, watching a precision transmission video to make sure I'm pulling all this stuff apart correctly back here. Yeah. These bolts are very interesting. They're smooth on the top surface. I'm not sure if this will come right out or what. Fits really nicely in there. Cool. It's a nice little housing there. These tubes are very interesting. It's kind of a neat looking thing. And then, you know, the I don't know if you call this a parking sprocket. I believe this part is called the pawl, but there's a bearing in there, which must be, not sure, okay, it's staked in. That's really interesting. So it's actually, wow. I don't know if y'all can see that. I'll kind of close it up here, but there are indentions in the aluminum holding this bearing in. Trying to figure the least offensive way of removing this. Cool. It's interesting. Doesn't seem to have a horrible amount of wear on here, but don't really know what I'm looking at either, so that's cool. And then there's this piece which bolts in with these 5 bolts. And I think, let's see what size these are. I think that's the next to come out. Alrighty. Just dropped all the springs. Cool, so there's a little clip down in there, and this thing, which I also learned has this channel, which is very important to index properly. It has to do with oiling that bearing that is immediate to it, and it's also right here where the cooler return is. It's pretty interesting, and you can see the channel here. Here, pop these up. Some pretty interesting stuff here. These are the bolts for it. I'm not sure if there's another piece. Oh yeah, of course, this piston comes out. Hopefully I can I believe it needs to be actuated by one of these holes. It might even be this one. There we go. And I dropped it. Alright. And this, with this seal, actually slides into the case. So this, it got a little torn at some point, the seal. But that fluid channel pushes this to activate these clutches, which go into the back of the case, I believe. And I believe also that those are for not only first gear but also reverse. But once again, check out Precision Transmissions, and you can actually learn about this thing, along with a multitude of other GM, Ford, Mopar transmission designs. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. Let me flip this thing up. You can just take a look down there. I think that's pretty much everything removable. This is a critical attribute of the case, is the condition of this surface, is that piston seal rides in it. I'm feeling a little texture, so if this didn't have this nasty crack and weld here, I would actually be concerned with the quality of that. But just for the purpose of taking this thing apart to see what's in there, I'm not too worried about it. But that is very interesting. And the transmission is tremendously lighter without all of these components in there. Just a hollow aluminum shell. Another interesting thing is this set of springs that resides in the bottom of the transmission. This fell out when I was removing everything, and it just kind of goes down in the bottom. It's interesting that these springs are attached to this kind of stamping here. I have actually seen before where these need to be loaded down into the transmission. That's interesting. All that stuff looks pretty neat. Now I just want to go ahead and we'll check out the pump and some of this other stuff individually. Alright, cool. So here's the pump. Let's pull it apart and see what's in there. I can also survey the condition of all the parts, or the surfaces. Take this plastic thing out. Alright, cool. Alright, now let's see, how does this come apart? There we go. Okay, cool. So here is the place this over here real quick. Here are the pump gears. And as a matter of fact, yeah, these flats in the gear are what the flats and the kind of input outer shaft of the converter index into, and that's what spins this pump here, and then rides with this guy to move the fluid. I think the important thing to kind of check out when assessing one of these is the condition of the metal in here, and you can see where kind of this side is dark in color and seemingly unaffected, whereas this side is kind of polished and even a little pitted there. So this appears to have a considerable amount of wear. You can see there's a bearing here too, which appears to be grooved a little bit, but it's had a hard life, especially sitting out in the weather more recently. But that's cool, and it's a really simple kind of thing. I mean, just how this works. There are channels in here where the fluid enters and exits the pump, and just turns. Or actually, yeah, we're looking at the back of it. Engines turn clockwise when you look at the front, so we'd be turning this counterclockwise looking at the rear of this. And it just moves the oil from one channel to the other. You can see how kind of loose this is, which maybe that's normal, I'm not sure. But you know, there's a bearing here that the kind of shaft of the converter rides in, and then it secures that inner gear here. But this is kind of cool. I think another thing to check is the clearance from the gear surfaces to the mating surface of the kind of nose cone of this, for lack of better terminology. and you want to make sure that there is the right amount of clearance for these to spin, but not excessive, and certainly not binding against the surface of this. And so you can look at this here and just kind of see, you know, kind of a pattern of how that's been interacted with. And you know, interestingly also, this appears to be broken. And so, you know, actually, yeah, I see what's happened now. This, I believe, is the stator support for the converter. It's got red towel material in it, but that's broken off. And that, you know, that's actually something that happens kind of strangely, but at some point that was broken. I don't know if it was after this was taken apart or what, but that is a very, very interesting kind of condition for this. Let's see. Let's check out some other stuff here. I know we looked at one sprag. I think maybe this is the one we checked out. Once again, this is it's a one-way kind of bearing here, which I think just facilitates the mechanical action of the transmission, considering planetary gears and the torque multiplying action of that, as well as the action of bands securing that assembly, if I'm not mistaken. Alright, cool, and here's the, I believe this is called the intermediate drum. I think this is the second gear drum, and that's what the band actually clamps around. Once again, it's really rusty. I don't know if this is serviceable, if this can just be cleaned up, maybe Scotch-Brited even, something as simple as that. I don't think it can be. But there are assembled parts in here. However, I don't know if you can quite see, but there are springs in here under this stamping that's much like this. And this has to be compressed in a special tool. I can barely do it by hand here in order to disassemble this. I'll pop that clip off. I don't have tooling for that. I could probably makeshift set something up in the you know, in the press to check that out, but I don't think there's really that much to see in there anyways. Sun gear here, and these, you know, when you're rebuilding a transmission, need to be inspected for wear and all sorts of stuff like that. I believe also this, let's see, I think this also needs to be pressed down to be disassembled. Not sure, but there's this cool bearing in there. And this is one of the number of roller bearings I found throughout this. Interesting that there are some roller bearings, and then in other instances there are not. I think that this is actually a spring that somehow allows for a little movement of this snap ring. Clutches live in there, could be these, you know, and I think that allows for movement, or maybe just creates resistance in there, not sure. So one day when I have some more specialized tools, I could take one of these all the way apart, and we'll check that out. Interestingly, I believe that a lot of these clutches and block ear rings, or whatever these are called, and all this stuff are the same dimensionally. So I think they are interchangeable. And once again, I believe that a thin ring, maybe this has that conical thing, but something maybe like this can replace one of these, along with a set of friction and steel, one each. Oh, and this is interesting here. This friction material is just flaking right off of there. Yet another interesting tidbit from Precision Transmission. Apparently, water in the transmission facilitates that separation somehow, chemically, I believe. But that just leaves the maze, the valve body, to be checked out. So let's look at that. Let's look at that valve body now. All right, cool. I guess what I want to go ahead and do is pull this filter off, or at least, I'm not sure which bolts go all the way through, if not all of them. Let me find a socket that fits that. Alright, so 5/16, 12 point was real loose, 7mm didn't fit. This 8 6-point socket fits really nicely, so if you're trying to pull one of these apart, I guess you need a really good 8mm socket. It's probably actually 5/16, I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, this is really interesting. You know, it'd be fun to learn really how these go together and be able to go through these transmissions. There's some more of that weird sludge junk. Nasty stuff. Alright, cool. Probably a good thing I pulled the filter off. There's a couple bolts under there. D7 AP, so 1977 design code. So sometime in the mid-70s they redesigned this valve body, I guess. Pull this off. These little tags are cool. This says LZ, so you know it must be some kind of a code for valve body. I'm just going around this thing. I don't know if there's any kind of specific pattern. I am seeing an upside down bolt right here, so it's kind of interesting. I wonder if that... It's interesting. There's this whole stamping on the side over here. Not sure exactly what that's all about. Let's see if this thing will separate. This is very interesting. See, there are several fasteners on the bottom here. Well, these might not go all the way through, but they could. Some of these are incredibly unique. Boy, there's a lot of junk. Yep, there it goes. Cool. Oh, I lost all of the BBs. Wow. Alright. You must complete the maze to continue. Wow, that's crazy. A lot of little passages in there, and they're really small. Yeah, there's all sorts of BBs and wow. So the smart thing would be definitely take those bolts out of the top first, and then flip it back over so you don't lose all that stuff. But no matter. I'd probably endeavor to install a shift kit in this anyways, but this is fun to look at. Another thing to note is this is where the shift linkage attaches, and then this is going to be the passing gear passage there. I'm not sure if that, you guess you'd call that a valve. And then these things all pull apart. You pry on them and remove little retainers and stuff like that. But so that stuff's all really interesting. This little piece is interesting as well. Here's that little filter thing. Alright, cool. So all the bolts have completely fallen away. Except that corner. Wow, check that out. There seems to be gasket material here. Wow, and there's really a maze in that. That's crazy how all that interacts. I wish I could intactly lift this gasket off, but I'm sure it'd just come off in little flakes. It feels like it would, and it would be a total mess. This is pretty telltale, just how these channels go. That's really neat. Then I believe the filter draws fluid up through at least one of these passages, again where that little sock resides. Very interesting piece. It seems to be reasonably clean too, but anyway, this is all interesting stuff. If you install a shift kit in these, this is what you're going to be going through, is just all this stuff, and then you put little BBs and springs and crap. I mean, look at these, like, crazy stuff. Really interesting. It's wild. This one bolt is very unique, and let's see, it was, I think it was on this side, and it was like, it was in one of these, but not that. I don't know. I would certainly hope that there is a good listing of fasteners and like a Chilton's manual or something for all this. Definitely plan to, I've learned a lot here, and if I do rebuild one of these, I would certainly like to carefully inspect all of the fasteners as they come out, because there are a lot of different length fasteners. I mean, these bigger ones around the perimeter that remove the valve body all seem to be about the same, but I mean, just the variation here, that's another one of those. It's just crazy. And then the spring, this reminds me, like, I changed a filter in a C4 one time, and this spring and something fell out, and I just stuck it back in the hole. I wasn't sure how it went, but it carried on for a while, so I must have done it at least nearly correct. That's cool. Here's a neat little thing too, even with this fully disassembled, other than these parts obviously, the the parking system still works. So let me grab the sprocket. I'm not sure which one of these parts is called the pawl, and I believe it is this piece, but this lives in here. Obviously that bearing, which is staked into the aluminum case there, supports this, but nope, wrong way. Once this is put into park, which I think I've just fully disabled, the little clicker spring came off of the rooster's comb. Anyway, so once this is put into park, it rolls a little bit, and that's captured there, and that's what puts it in park. So if you've ever put it in park while you're still rolling, and you hear that that's that thing skipping against that, and that's why that can break off, because as a matter of fact it'd be going this way, and I guess you would break this piece here. This is held in by this spring. Also this plate that I haven't removed, but I'll probably have to pull that plate out ultimately, but that's kind of a neat little thing. Really strong. That's a nice piece of steel there. That paint is interesting. I wonder what that denotes. But just kind of cool to see how all this stuff works. That's so familiar, but kind of hidden inside of the automatic transmission. I think we'll also go ahead and check some of this linkage out. Alright, so the linkage here, this would go to a lever that the shifter itself would activate, and that controls this. And once again, this particular lever here, which once again interacts with this. So when this is installed, you need to get that. Obviously, it goes like this, but this typically needs to go into that groove. And I'm pretty sure on these C6s it's just the same as any that I've seen the inside of. So you need to make sure when you're putting one together that's indexed properly. And then the kick down, this actually moves this lever, and that pushes against this, activating that valve, which is your kick down or passing gear system. I think once this is all apart, yeah, this pulls through the passing gear thing, so that goes onto there like that, pushes against that. And then this can be unbolted. There's like a C-clip in there. You can kind of see, here, let me turn this. There's a rooster comb on the end of this guy, which is just a bunch of detents that this spring and roller rides against, which gives it the detent position. Pretty clever and simple. And if any of y'all are using this for reference, you can see how this rod goes in, curving around here. Let me get a light so we can see some of the detail. Here, let me get you real close. Alright, so you can see kind of how that works. And there's a little C-clip on that which holds this rod in. and then that must be secured in the plate here. You can also see kind of how that small lever and spring goes, and then also how the parking pawl fits in there. And so that's a really neat kind of little system there. And then once again, this just comes through here. And there's seals, which I can feel. There's like an O-ring on the outside and all that. So actually I can get that O-ring out. So this O-ring seals this, so it goes on here and keeps fluid from traveling out to the linkage area. But there's that, and you'd go ahead and pull this all apart if you're rebuilding it to put new seals in there and clean all this stuff up, and just make sure you can kind of see how the roller goes in there on that spring loaded piece and all that stuff. So once again, pretty neat stuff. I think there's stuff that comes apart regarding the vacuum modulation, kick down stuff, and then here's what the piston interacts with, or the servo, I mean, interacts with here. And I believe this stuff is all for this is all for second gear. While I'm trying to show you pretty much everything that I can that I know about these, which is not much. This is the band adjustment here, you know, so that screws in like that. Typically, I believe you put these in till they're tight and then back them off a certain amount and then set them with this nut. I know like power glides typically take a turn and 3/4 out to set. I'm not sure about these C6s. And then those two kind of wedge pieces situate in here and squeeze that band around the that second gear drum here, which contains frictions and steels as well. I believe for third gear, but don't quote me on that. A lot of really cool stuff in here once again. I just hope that if anyone was trying to watch this video to figure out how something goes back together, you're able to see it. And I certainly enjoyed checking out all the pieces inside. But check out Frank Merkel's stuff. He's a C6 specialist. If you're into these transmissions, definitely check out Precision Transmission. He's got a lot of really great info about automatics, and I think he even does have some build videos. I know he put a TH350 together in one, and definitely Mountain's Garage. He builds TH400s, and he'll show you tricks and all that kind of stuff as well. So that covers a lot of the big three. Precision Transmission messes with a lot of Dodge truck transmissions as well, I know. So really cool stuff. I'd love to learn more about this. If you've got any cool tips or anything, put them in the comments. I really appreciate that. I think at some point I want to try to build some of these C6s. I might try to mess with a C4 at some point. I know guys that build really great glides and TH400s, so I don't really think that I could do much better than people with decades of experience, but one day it'd be cool to build something like that, possibly as well, and maybe I can get some tips from them. But no, otherwise, it's been kind of a cool look into the craziness of the C6 3-speed Ford automatic. This one being a 4-wheel drive unit. Really, it's just shorter and doesn't have a speedometer housing on it because that's going to be on the transfer case. If you put it in low range, it's going to have a different drive shaft speed than if it's just in normal drive ratio. But regardless, this has been really interesting. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'm always honored when people like and even subscribe to my channel. And y'all take care, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.